And brilliant. Thank you so much. Hello, Michelle.
Hello, Mark. Very nice to see you.
Yeah, nice. Thank you so much for coming and joining us. So, today, ladies and gentlemen, to the audience, we have Michelle Cheyenne. I presume I'm
No, Cheyne, but
Cheyne.
goodbye.
Okay. Yeah, Michelle Cheyne of Wisdom Seeker Society, who's the founder of Wisdom Seeker Society, which is an outfit, an entity which is operating obviously here in the UK. Michelle will tell us a little bit more about that, obviously. And so, welcome, Michelle, once again. You're very, very much welcome. So, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself, your journey, and how you have got to where you are at present. Yeah.
Yeah. How long do we have? Because this might take a while.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
well, that
it's a long journey, but I will
I'm
make it
keen
as
to.
short as possible.
No problem.
I am, I've actually, it's quite an interesting kind of full circle. I've just booked our tickets back to Namibia, where I'm originally from. I was born in Namibia, in Windhoek. Um, I grew up in South Africa, came to the UK about 11 years ago. We landed here with two small children and big dreams and all kinds of things. My background is in psychology. I studied law, psychology, worked in psychological assessment, and then entering the UK market, the job market, I would say probably, was a little bit different. And with two small kids, my son was 2.5, my daughter was 5, so she was just entering school. I eventually kind of decided, well, let's figure out how I do this and with them around. So kind of
Yeah,
had to
of
shape a
course.
business, shape
Yeah.
a lifestyle around being able to work from home and still do the things that I love. So psychology, learning, rabbit holes, I call them, kind of, going
Yeah.
down and
Yeah.
learning about myths and how these things reflect our inner worlds and how we can kind of, make sense of the world through stories and through connection and through each other. It
Yeah.
kind of took quite a loop. I worked in education as well for a long time, so I worked as a learning mentor, yeah, up
Oh, wow.
Derbyshire. I
Okay.
moved up to Derbyshire after a year in London. It was way too busy for an African soul to be stuck
Yeah.
in the
London is
city.
a
Yeah,
bit, yeah, I understand.
yeah. Um, yeah, so I went from instinctive living was my first kind of space where I provided online or with virtual kind of um, assistance to people that work in psychology or education. I started working building websites, never knew how a website worked. Learned WordPress, so I now build my own sites and I do my own stuff. Then I went into a collaboration. We started in lockdown. We started a business called Content College, which was kind of a online, everybody was suddenly thrown into the online world.
Yes. Yes.
And I'd already been living there, Zoom was something that I used for work and yeah, so we kind of started building a community, I suppose. I don't really like the word community, but
Yeah.
community
A group
online,
of people. A group of
a group
people with,
of people,
yeah,
yes, a
singular
tribe is what I'm
with
going for
interests.
these
Yeah.
days. But
Yeah.
yes. And then my business partner, we kind of split, and I pulled the tribe of people together who were all over the world, some in the States, some in South Africa, some in the UK, some in I think Italy at the time. And I was like, okay, so here we are. We don't align with this concept of content college anymore. What do you guys think? And through that, Wisdom Seeker Society was born. Someone brought it in, and I thought it was a bit, what's the word? Arrogant to
Okay.
kind of go with wisdom. And now I've really embraced it
Right.
as the road forward. Still within this tribe concept. I have themes every month. I create content around those.
Oh, wow.
have now created a journal that goes with
Okay. Oh, wow.
um, every every season, so there's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's where we are now, I think. And then
Yeah.
we're heading back home to Africa, and hopefully Wisdom
Okay.
Seekers will grow from there as well.
Brilliant. So, what would you say? Okay, so I mean, obviously, you must have had quite a few challenges in terms of, yeah, I mean, let's, apart from the sort of like the practical challenges, obviously, you've got a very targeted group of people or tribe who are very much in tune with, what you have to offer. How was it accepted in terms of in mainstream? How did you navigate that? Did you feel that, oh, well, I'm different, who cares? This is what I'm going to do. How did you
Yeah.
navigate that?
Well, I think I'm still navigating it. I don't think I'll ever, it's one of those things that is being different. I've always been different.
Yeah,
When I was
yeah, yeah,
growing up, I was the only one that was learning English because I wanted to, be able to communicate with people outside of the world.
okay.
Um, So I think it's still being navigated constantly.
Yeah,
I am now at a point where, I am different, and I know there are a lot of other different people out there that often don't get to connect to that side of themselves because I think when we spoke before, you also mentioned, we get busy with life and we have to
that's it. Yeah,
to earn a living, but people like story. People like to kind of, take time, reflect, not be taught, but rather kind of remember the things that we already know and
yeah,
have the space to do that in.
right.
So yes, I'm embracing the being different and attracting those that are of similar or kindred spirits.
Yeah, that's a good word. Kindred spirit. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a good phrase. Kindred spirits.
Yeah.
So let's say, okay, thanks, Michelle. That's really great. So let's say, in a nutshell, let's say, for instance, we're talking about an elevator pitch. So I'm sorry, I don't want to put you on the spot, but like an elevator pitch, Wisdom Seekers Society.
Mm.
Tell me about them.
Oh, you know how I didn't like this one,
What's
but I will
what's
try. For you, I'll try.
is that
Yeah.
what do you want to solve for people? Why should people come to Wisdom Seeker Society?
Yes.
And let's frame it like that.
Okay. And this is the difficulty in pitching this because it's not solving anything. I am not creating or highlighting an issue in anybody's life or work. I am really just going, you are already perfect as you are. Let's create a quiet space, or a noisy space if you need that. So finding a reflective space where people can really just go, who's the person, yeah, that wants to come out, and what can I take from
Yeah,
at the moment we're doing the myth of the phoenix, and how it is actually connected to the Bennu, which is completely opposite, and these beautiful stories that our cultures all over the world. I try and kind of connect the north and, well, the middle, and the southern kind
yeah,
of
yeah,
um, concepts, and finding what resonates. Because I think we often put into boxes as to, okay, this is how my life should look, and
yeah.
therefore I have a problem, and
Right,
therefore this thing can solve it.
right,
And yet, for me, the box is the issue. There is no box. So then
right.
there is no issue or thing to solve necessarily.
Oh, that's really fascinating. It's kind of like a sort of like a reverse psychological reverse engineering, isn't it?
That's it.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's brilliant.
Yes.
No, that's really brilliant. So, in terms of like, I mean, I'm sure you must get this a lot. It's a sort of it's a spiritual dimension. Is there sort of like that there's a psychotherapeutic kind of
Mm.
inlay there that actually that works for people, that people tend to think that, okay, fine, I, I'm not saying that I have a problem, but I
Mm.
know that I come to you because your experience, this environment, this particular space that you offer will give me particular benefit.
Yes. And lenses, maybe, to be able to look through at the world through different lenses, instead of being taught, there for me there is no right way. There's no
Yeah,
right or wrong. There is
yeah,
a
yeah,
what what your soul, yearns for, or the journey that you've chosen here, and to kind of be able to embrace that as you and not as me. So I provide the platform
Yeah.
and the space where we can have these conversations or dialogues, really, more
Yeah.
than
Okay.
conversations. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, there are times when I wake up really early in the morning, and it's just there's silence and there's great essence, there's a great kind of yeah, potency. You just feel really kind of, I don't know, purity. I don't want to sound cheesy, but there's a kind of, there's just stillness. And the other time where I get that is is like if I'm walking in the wilderness, if I'm
Yeah.
walking in the wilderness, it's just me. There's a really great sort of like park around here that I go, early in the morning. There's just nobody there. And I just feel in my essence. So I guess there's a kind of, yeah, I can really see. So how would you say this would you say it's diametrically opposed to some of the sort of like the traditional spiritual type of dialogues that go on, or divine, let's say divine dialogues, that the institutional ones, let's say, would you think it's opposed, it's diametrically opposed to that, or aligned perhaps?
Um, you know, if I say either of those, I would say one is right and the other is wrong. And I
Right.
don't want to
Okay.
go there either.
Yeah.
And I think the spiritual industry has become very toxic in its own right.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
So it's a difficult space to inhabit because you're not selling a solution. You're selling a space for silence or for reflection or for bouncing off ideas without judgment. Yeah. So it is opposed to it, but not in a comparison kind of way.
Well, yeah, no, that's really great. It's a really good framing that. So obviously you are an entity
Yes.
in terms of that. You mentioned tribe. You're a kind of like a group.
Yeah.
There's certain practicalities, unfortunately, as we are.
Yeah.
We're not of this world, but we're within it, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Things that have to work, that have to be put in place, and this and that. So, what would you say is working well for you?
I think aspects of the reachability of the fact that we can communicate through different time zones. I've kind of had a lot of challenges, as you mentioned, trying to find the right platform. I use a membership platform, so I have all my content living there, but then I also need a space where people can connect and communicate without putting more overwhelm onto their icons on their phone, or the thing that they have to log in, or so we use WhatsApp at the moment as a space where we can communicate and chat. Then you have to kind of manage whether you are sending out too many emails or too little emails, or, so trying to find that rhythm in consistency in providing what people can see, and then do I want to go deeper in, or am I just going to take this little snippet that I get once a week in my email? Yeah. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey of learning, and it always will be, I think.
Which is part of the, I don't want to, well, part of the fun, but part of the learning curve. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
always going to be there.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So let's say, for instance, what would you say some of the challenges are?
Um, Working across different time zones.
Yeah,
So I go to bed, or I'm waking up when other people are still asleep. So
yeah,
kind of creating that dialogue space, having calls. I do set calls every month. So I have a dialogue call at the beginning of the month, which is open to everybody. Then I have a wisdom workshop, and I have a wisdom circle, and I have a book discussion, but it also becomes just another thing to join. So I'm trying to make these things accessible even if you can't be there. So I record some of these things, and they are there to watch, or to have a conversation around. So I think bridging the people aren't always going to be able to join your calls, and it's not personal, or it's not that they don't, yeah, find it of value.
So, in terms of growth, do you think it's something that you want to grow, or are you happy with it as it is, or is there any kind of, how do you see that?
Yeah. There's it's called the Barnum effect, if I remember correctly. I think
Right.
150 is there's the number of connections that we can manage in our space. So that is my first kind of, not goal, but yeah, vision to kind of,
Aspiration, yeah, where you want to, where you'd feel comfortable at. Okay.
yes, while still be able to hold these people in the tribe. It's the thing, I think, as a I don't know what to call myself in that aspect, but to know that these people are part of my world, and I hold them within my mind. I have conversations with most of them in my
Yeah,
head
yeah,
because
yeah.
it's a connection point. So to be able to manage that efficiently,
Without
with
losing a personal, well, yeah, without losing the personal touch. Yeah, that, I think that, yeah, I think
yeah,
that.
and the authenticity of it, to not just make it, oh, another thing that you do. Yeah.
Wow, that's really fascinating. There's a lot of so on on the flip side, what do you think about, you know, if you think about growth, okay, you've mentioned your metrics. You're looking at the Barnum effect. So how many connections within, is it the Barnum
I
effect?
think it's the bottom. I'll have to
Yeah,
double
I
check,
don't know
but
either.
it's
Yes,
150.
I'll take your word for it. So like in terms of like people, in terms of their connections, how many do you have at present, and how many do you want to have? What works really well?
Yeah, I would like to have about five, around 150 would be great,
Yeah,
numbers wise. At the moment, we're a very small group. Some of us have been together some of them have been with me for 5 years, through these different stages. So it would be really good to grow that authentically. This is the
yeah,
issue I have at the moment, or have always, I suppose, had, but with social media, or with, lead magnets and this and
yeah.
the concept of
Authenticity. Yeah.
marketing. Yeah. Um, you lose a lot of authenticity if you check all the right boxes. And then, yeah, you lose the business foundation as well.
Yeah, I think it's I totally get what you're saying in terms of authenticity, in terms of outreach.
Hmm.
I don't think that your organization is the kind of organization that perhaps would benefit really well from this kind of uh, blitzkrieg blitzkrieg outreach. It's kind of like it'd be a bit of a sort of like an oxymoron for the type of, for what you're about. It would definitely be an oxymoron. But I think that in terms of like a back office, in terms of your operability, in terms of what's working in the background, in terms of your organization, I think that's got nothing to do with the front face. Do you see what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's got nothing to do with the front face. I think that it might work. There might be some things there that would work. But okay, Michelle, let's talk about back to Wisdom Seekers Society. So, what things do you have ongoing now? What you're moving back to Namibia? That's
Or to
brilliant.
South Africa, yeah, we kind of
And then
doing the
from Namibia
pilgrimage.
to South Africa.
Yeah,
Okay, so
yeah,
first of all, you're touching base, which is, well, your birth, your country of birth, and then
yeah,
you're going to select to your home, your second home, or your first home, or whatever.
yeah.
Fantastic. With that change of location, what are the dynamics going to be? So you're actually going, you're shifting your whole family, you're going in the next, oh, so how will that change? Yeah, yeah. So how Wisdom Seeker Society, how will that impact Wisdom Seeker Society in terms of your operations? You're moving away from Derbyshire, you're going back to the motherland, a place that, Africa has a special place in my heart as an African, so we're fellow Africans.
Yeah.
How is that going to change that dynamic?
Not much, and this was always the mission.
Right.
The mission was to create something that is based,
That's agile.
outside of location, outside of these things. Again, time is always the illusion that we hold on to, but physical clock time does have an influence on us. It's not that different from the UK though. It's only an hour in summer, 2 hours in winter.
Yeah.
So it's logistically, you know, Africa, most of Africa, South Africa definitely has a lot of challenges when it comes to what's the word, resources or, electricity,
Infrastructure. You're talking
infrastructure.
about,
That's
yeah, infrastructure.
what it is.
I mean, but then having said that, it's a lot better off than a lot of other parts of Africa
Exactly. Or
in
the world
terms of,
necessarily,
yeah, in terms
Yeah,
of that infrastructure,
yeah,
in terms of that
yeah.
infrastructure.
So the biggest challenge there would be what we call load shedding. So the electricity gets switched off for certain amounts of time, but we're around it. Generators, whatever we need, or we can just embrace
The
the
change.
beauty of the land and
Yeah.
take those moments to ourselves. Because in effect, the base is already there. It's just creating more connection, creating more. Um, little bits. So every season, I have 4 seasons. I start with Foundation of Self, then I have Alchemy of Trust, then I have Art of Mastery, and then I have Release of letting go, yeah. And each of those seasons come with a journal. Each of those seasons come with 3 themes, and so all the structure is there, and then it's easy to just add to it to automate what can be automated, and the rest is direct authentic connection with people
Yeah.
and having the conversations that go a little bit deeper. So I've now added the myth element. I started with trees in the first season, so we did the Yggdrasil, the baobab, and the what was the last one, the tree of emergence, which is the kind of, I never know what the right word is, Native American, I
Oh,
suppose,
okay.
concept of this tree that consciousness kind of moves through, and how we let go and go into each of these different stages of development. And then this season I'm doing birds. So we did Phoenix. Now we're going to do the lightning bird, which is an interesting one for May. It's a Xhosa or a Zulu. They combine this myth of this kind of shape-shifting bird in
Wow.
Southern Africa. So yeah, so there's always something new that comes in, and
Yeah.
next year, if these themes or these myths are still the year, we'll go a little bit deeper and see how they connect us more to ourselves, and how we can kind of take in what's so ancient, and what feels like we already know.
That's brilliant. That's so insightful. I mean, it's a fascinating, yeah, it's a fascinating, it's very kind of hypnotic, let's say, in terms of like what it is that, it's brilliant. It's really brilliant.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I think we're kind of nearly coming to the end. We've had a great kind of yeah, we've had a great conversation. We have got a great chat. Is there anything else that you want to specifically talk about that, we're here at this? You're leaving Derbyshire. Well, okay, let's say Derbyshire. I know that you've got, in terms of mythology, I think the Vikings were in that part of the world for nearly 400, 500 years, aren't they?
Yeah, there's a lot of bits, especially up towards the Peak District, where you can see kind of, structures, and there's Druid kind of
Yeah,
spaces,
definitely.
and there's beautiful stones,
Yeah,
close here. There's the Nine Ladies. There's very ancient, and I think, it's quite interesting because as we're shifting again, every time we kind of migrate, you think of the things that you've come here to learn.
right.
And there's definitely aspects of this space
Yeah,
that's made a very big impression on me, especially trees. I've just fallen in love with these trees. They carry such wisdom. Um, the earth is cold though, from
right.
going
Yeah,
from Namibia and then
yeah,
living in southern Africa.
yeah, yeah.
It's there the sky is open and wide, and the earth is warm and
It's very expansive over there.
yes.
Yeah,
So yes, there is a lot of myth, and I think this is why I came here, is to connect to the fact that there's a lot of myth all around us. There's
right.
so many cultures in the world, and we've kind of found, or become come to believe, that we have to all follow the same way of thinking or living, and I think it's
Yeah.
important for us to embrace our own cultural um yeah stories, our
Yeah, definitely.
connections, and
Yeah.
that's not homogenous, that's not just in a certain way that we look, or a certain way. It's kind of what calls to us. I I think our souls have had different incarnations, and we bring a little bit of each thing into the next life, maybe.
Yeah.
Who
Well,
knows?
let's say, this is what we call the sort of the magic wand question.
Oh,
Okay.
yes.
So, Michelle, in 12 months' time, we're having this conversation again. Where would you want Wisdom Seekers Society? Where would you want it to be in terms of your reach, in terms of your operations, in terms of, let's say, outside of the, so like the essence of your, I don't want to say, well, service, outside of the essence of your offerings,
Yeah.
right? So outside of that, obviously, because that's something that's evolving and growing, and that's in and of itself. What about the rest of it? Where would you want that to be?
Great question, because the dream has always been to have a Wisdom Seekers headquarters space where it is, well, headquarters for lack of a better word, but which could be a space for, chop wood, carry water. That
Oh,
concept
wow.
for me has always been so grounding, just to have a physical space where people can just really do that, chop wood and carry water, and experience, yeah, maybe the African sky. The stars down there are more beautiful, I think, for me.
Yeah, I mean, African skies, there's something about them. They're very, yeah, they kind of, yeah. No, I totally understand where you're coming from. The dry season, the rainy season.
Yeah,
When I was growing up, where I grew up in a kind of an old mining compound.
yeah.
And so my dad brought this old mining compound from an old Irish miner.
Oh,
And
interesting.
it's a brilliant space because it had all these kind of old, sort of like mining. There was a lot of tin at that particular point. And
Yeah.
so it's still there. It's a great sprawling kind of space. And we had all these mango trees.
Mhm.
And, when the rainy season came, when the rains came, and then after the rains, everything is so quiet, and you'd see these like soldier ants.
Yeah,
You'd see them in lines. And as a boy, I was just fascinated by that. I would go and sit and watch these kind of ants, and in my mind, I'd have all these things going on, and they're going to fight that army, and yeah, it was really special. It was really special. So I know exactly what you're saying in terms of that. Yeah. So
and you can
anyway,
smell it there, can't you? I can smell where those ants are, and that's
yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah.
And
It's brilliant. Wow, fascinating. Well, I think, Michelle, it's been a great conversation.